What up, y'all? Happy Wednesday. We're going to be talking at night 2 of the Great American Bash for NXT coming up next.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Happy Wednesday, y'all. TK Trinidad here. We're shifting the time for our NXT Post Show. It's going to be happening right before WWT Live every Wednesday. And I am not alone. One half, I guess, of the other tag team for WWT, Mr. Walton, is in the building. I don't know what the other half, your other tag team partner is, but, welcome.
It's good to be here. Clearly, we don't get sick days here at WWT because my request kept being asked of. So, and I will go ahead and add that is the only tag team here at WWT. There's only one.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for letting me know. With that being said, let's get into it. What did you think of overall of NXT night 2?
It's kind of, I will say it's kind of disappointing. I thought the matches were great, and I think we consistently put on great matches, but going to the theme of it, it kind of feels like when, I hate to make these crossover comparisons, but it feels like when AEW does like Battle of the Belts, and it's meant to be like this big thing, but then we don't get any title changes. So it's like, for what? Like, why are we using the name of this great former pay-per-view that was with WCW if we're not going to get payoff for it? Right. And that's kind of my feeling for both weeks. It's just that we had all these amazing title matches and storylines, and nothing happened. Nothing of consequence happened with surrounding the belts. That was how I left feeling.
Okay. Do you think it's like a setup for CW? Because that's like coming around the corner.
It is around the corner, but I have to, if I was to look into the crystal ball, like I don't see who or what. I think the one thing that I left interested in from last night's NXT was who is actually challenging Obafemi next week. He kind of got cut off in the parking lot when we were going to get an answer. It's like, that's the mystery I'm looking forward to, is like, who is Obafemi's next challenger for the North American title? Other than that, everything was pretty straightforward. I think Kalani had a great match versus a very pro Tatum Paxley crowd. So that's beautiful to see that she had a huge fan base there. Don't like seeing Kalani get booed, but if you guys like Tatum, dope. Tatum is a great performer, and I think she'll eventually get her moment. I think a lot of, if you really want to know like the core of my thoughts, a lot of last night felt forced. A whole lot of it, from the ending to Wendy Chu choking Tatum, I was just left with Michael. Damn it, a whole bunch of why. A whole bunch of why.
Okay, well, let's get into the very first match, which is Trick Williams and Pete Dunne. What did you think of this match?
You know what? This will probably surprise a lot of people. This would definitely surprise the professor. This is the best I've seen Trick Williams look in ring. I'm looking at that match in its totality. I'm like, that's the best version of Trick Williams. Everything he did in the ring was the most polished I've seen him look this entire time in NXT. And I think Professor and I talked last week, and I said this is Trick's hard times era, and it's good that this comes with losses. Like I don't want him to be like Cody, where it's like, hey, it's hard times, but you might get beat up, but you keep winning everything. He needs to lose. He needs to feel these losses so he can get back. But as far as an in-ring standpoint, that was great work by Trick. Maybe he found his perfect dance partner, Pete Dunne. I think we get to kind of refresh our palates for who Pete Dunne is as a technician, as a performer. And I like it. And if they do it again, then awesome. I hope they do it at whichever of the first PLEs is coming up. I think it's No Mercy. So I would hope to see more of that, but I think this is good for Trick that he took a L and wants to get back up and keep fighting.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I feel like I think you've said this before, the thrill is in the chase. So, now that he has, lost the belt, now he's lost the title, you can't really, it's like you're going to start him from the bottom. However, you don't want him starting from the bottom and beating all these people. Like him and Pete, they put on such a great match. And it actually, I think also too, for people who weren't fans of Pete, this match also made them fans of him too, if that makes sense. So I really did. I did like this match. I am curious to see, because I don't think this is. I don't think Trick is going to the main roster anytime soon. I think they need him in the CW. I think there's plenty more stories to explore for NXT. Plenty of different directions to go. So I'm anxious, because I don't like waiting for anything. I'm anxious to see how this is all going to play out, because eventually the payoff is going to come and he's going to become champion. It's just as far as who's the competitor, the storyline, all that stuff. So how that's all going to kind of play out with everything.
And then when I look at I'm of the mindset where I don't know if he actually does get the title back, because when I look at the history of NXT and everybody who is a 2-time NXT World Champion, I have to ask myself, does Trick Williams deserve that accolade yet? And if anything, this journey that he's on is supposed to prove that. It's supposed to prove that he should be a 2-time champion, like I believe like a Finn Balor, like a Samoa Joe, like a Braun Breaker. Is he that type of character that is the face of the brand that deserves to have that 2-time acronym next to his name? Like right now, if you ask me today, I say no. He does not need to be featured with that crop of superstars that went on just to be great. If he proves himself on this journey of like falling down and getting back on the horse, then yeah, I would say, okay, it makes sense.
Really, I disagree. I think maybe I'm putting it on the fact that he's just so over with everything, with the crowd, that I feel like a 2-time would be really beneficial, especially when he does make that transition to the main roster. I feel like that's going to be also part of the storyline, being a 2-time or 3-time champion. Let
me ask you this:
I don't think it's anytime soon.
When you throw it back to Black and Gold, did you feel Karrion Kross deserved to be a 2-time NXT champion?
Well, I feel like Black and Gold is a different era. It's almost like talking about another terrible analogy. It's almost talking about like when basketball players used to wear those short shorts. Yeah, it was great to see them in short shorts, but now it's going to look weird. Different era.
We're not doing that today. It was great. Wow. Next story. I can't. I mean,
long story, long legs and everything. No, okay.
I can't even follow that.
The next match for the Women's North American Championship, Kalani Jordan and Tatum Paxley. What did you think of this match?
This was, to me, match of the night. Match of the night. And it showcases why they had so much high praise backstage and how much promise they have for Kalani Jordan. Mm-hmm. I think some of her style is just starting to radiate in the ring right now. She's really about to hit her stride. And I'm glad that they strapped this title to her to be the inaugural champion. And she's going to continue to put on great matches. But, man, I don't know if Tatum Paxley is just a victim of the era she's in, but Tatum can work. Tatum is amazing in the ring. And I don't know when she'll taste her first bit of gold. I don't know if this character change that she's on right now is for her, but something's got to give there where she gets her first taste of gold. I don't know if it's going to be NXT. I don't know if it's going to be in TNA, but Tatum continues to show that she's one of the. It reminds me of kind of like how Zoe Stark was in NXT, where it's like she wasn't going to win the big one, but she's like, damn, she's really good. And I just hope she gets her moment, whatever that looks like. Tatum's as a fantastic performer in the ring, and her and Kalani Jordan, I can watch it 10 out of 10 times.
And what did you think of the ending with Wendy Chu?
You know what? I don't think I'm on the record saying this here yet. This is another thing that I feel like is forced. We're not learning much about it on screen, but Wendy tore her ACL and she was just happy-go-lucky character. Everybody liked the sleepy girl Wendy Chu. She even had her own special match that she had with Tiffany Stratton that she beat Tiffany Stratton in. And it's like now we have this dark character that's just like roaming around backstage, and like I'm still waiting for the payoff to why.
Right.
Why did they have to bring her back as this version? Like she's dark, ominous, she's choking people out. It's like I just think it's another thing that we're just doing and seeing if it sticks. And I don't think it was necessary. Again, showcasing friendship with Tatum and choking her out. I don't know if that does anything for Tatum. I think Tatum's still going to be the weird girl backstage playing with dolls. But what does that do for Wendy Chu?
Right.
I don't think it does anything for Wendy Chu.
How does this like set up? It would have been different too if Kalani stepped in between the two of them and like she formed an alliance or something like that. It just seemed like, okay, she turned on her, but they weren't really great friends to begin with. So
right.
It is very questionable. Wendy Chu, that character would be perfect for TNA, but for NXT, I'm curious how it's gonna play out. It almost feels like she needs to go a little bit darker, where now she's terrorizing the whole locker room, women and men alike. So, but you know that's all you can do. No matter if you're on the main roster or not, you try something, you see if it works. If it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board and you try something else. So, we'll see what happens with it.
I have some more thoughts about that. I like that you just said that. You like try something, see if it works, then go back to the drawing board. And that's my biggest issue with trying something just for the sake of trying it. Like I have thoughts about that. I'll break that down later as we get further into like the card.
Okay. What up, cousin Ron and Eric? Yeah. See, Eric, Tatum and Rosemary would be great. Like I see Tatum and even Wendy on a NXT. Like it's very much NXT kind of has that cross between what can definitely happen in real life and versus scary movie type situation. But again, we will see what happens. That brings us to our next match, Ethan Page versus Oro Mensah. What did you think about this match?
Ethan and Oro, very contrasting styles. I mean, we know what was happening for weeks. Oro, I think if anything, this showcased that Oro can kind of rock in the main event picture.
Right.
Which is good. I mean, he took it to Ethan the entire match, but I don't think in anybody's minds they really feel. I know they tried to play it up with the fake pins for the past few weeks. I don't think anybody thought that Ethan Page's title reign was in jeopardy. If anything, I was shocked at where this happened during the night.
Okay.
Meaning that your world champion was not closing out the night. I think that's what's more shocking than anything. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Roxanne Perez and Thea Hale closed out Great American Bash night 1.
Right.
But Ethan Page, which is supposed to be the biggest champion on the brand, is smack dab in the middle of the show. So I think that says a lot. And maybe it has to do with what we talked about earlier. Your golden boy is in a different era right now of trying to refine and reclaim whatever his greatness is. So you don't have that Ethan Page versus Trick Williams program. So kind of lets me see where Ethan Page is in the totem pole, and maybe he needs that super baby face to keep him at the top of the card. But your biggest champion should absolutely be closing the card.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Then that's the question. Why didn't he? I mean, I feel like they made the right choice for the main event. Ethan doesn't do it for me. Like, I mean, as far as having the fit, like there was so much, and it'd be interesting to see, I'm sure Bosa is going to see this. It'd be interesting to see when you have such a buildup and such a a likability that Trick had, and any other champion who's that far over, the next person who takes over, do they still have that? Is that excitement passed over? You see what I'm saying? Like, people love Trick, and he was essentially like, it was undeniable that he was the face of the company. With Ethan, I'm not getting that, and I'm wondering if that's typically what happens when somebody's that much over, and then they drop the championship, they drop the belt.
It could be a little bit of that, and I like everything about Ethan Page. I just think you need to be very calculated as far as who's across from him, because he's supposed to be the heel that came and took the brand hostage and got everything he wanted in his contract. I think we need to showcase more of that. Showcase more of that, those back and forths with like Eva and her assistants and things like that. It's like, hey, I demanded this, I demanded that. And that's how you get his character shine across from the screen. I think this Earl Mensah stuff, now that we're done with it, we can get back to who is Ethan Page, because this was still a part of the why. The why is Ethan Page here, which is, hey, I attacked all these guys backstage, Trick, Noam Dar, and got involved with that just so I can call my shot and get a title. Now I'm the champion. We need to get back to the story of Ethan Page. I think we can finally do that now that this is out of the way.
Right. Another story that we should definitely take into consideration is ACW. Definitely, if you're in Jamaica, the Kingston area, to be exact, at the end of this month, ACW is having a pay-per-view, and we are very, very happy that they are. I was going to say they're one of our major sponsors, so definitely check out
this
ACW.
episode of Women's Wrestling Talk has been brought to you by All Caribbean Wrestling. Catch the wave. Go to allcaribbeanwrestling.com to check out all the latest pay-per-views, or go on the YouTube page at All Caribbean Wrestling. Also, go and check out their socials on Instagram at All Caribbean Wrestling and on X at All Caribbean WR1.
And let me tell you, I actually got to see the card that's coming up for this pay-per-view, and it's going to be quite interesting. So you definitely want to check that out. That brings us to our next match, which is Joe Hendry and Joe Coffey. What did you think of this match?
I didn't get to see this whole match, but I did see the clips, and Joe Hendry did his thing. Joe Hendry absolutely took it to Gallus and came out on top. And the tea with Mr. Hendry is that he's not ready to leave NXT. We broke news last week that he kind of gets special. I don't want to say special privileges as if people don't, but he's one of these superstars, a part of this TNA NXT partnership with WWE, that he's able to train at the PC and work under the tutelage of all the people there. So there's such an investment with Joe Hendry, and this is a person that the rocket ship is being strapped to his back, and we see it. So getting the win over his fellow countrymen last night, big factor. But we talked previously about where this was on the card, and this came after your world title match. So you need a baby face to kind of bring the best out of Ethan Page. I think you found it with Joe Hendry. Like, he can only show up so much and then not actually get a shot at the belt. I think that's the next logical step for Hendry as well as Ethan Page.
Yeah, with I mean, he's so much over with NXT, and I'm always just curious as far as like contractual what that looks like, because it seems like they're priming him to cross over to NXT once his contract is over, which means is TNA like on equal footing with NXT, where it's like a training ground for new stars, or what's the game plan? It seems like they're both obviously getting the crossover. You know, people are knowing if they're not followers of TNA, they're now going to follow TNA because they want to see what's happening there. And then NXT gets, different blood coming in. But what do you think? What do you think the reasoning for all of this is?
I think Hendry said that he still has quite a bit of time left on his TNA contract, but I think it just shows like TNA wants the best for their performers, and WWE saw somebody that they can really shed a light on, like an international sensation. They want to show what they can do with that financial backing, platform, commercials, whatever you have it. And I think the partnership is a working partnership where you're going to see more people appear in TNA, maybe go down the TNA, maybe superstars that were released will sign contracts with TNA as well to help boost the brand there. So you see like, hey, these people are in TNA now. But I do think there'll be, I think Joe Hendry is the unique situation where there could be an agreed upon buyout. Like maybe you buy out the contract with TNA, maybe throw them a little extra. Maybe some superstars can continue to appear on those shows, or you say, hey, we have big plans for Superstar, and I don't think TNA would hold him back at all and say like, hey, no, we're not letting this guy out. I think they have shown that they have the best interest for Joe Hendry and how they're allowing him to be featured. Because at the end of the day, it still comes back to, well, where was he before here? TNA.
Bobby's saying I would be interested to see when we do Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. I don't know.
Perfect contrast. Perfect contrast in characters.
But do you think Ethan needs to be more of a heel? Like I feel like he's missing a little something.
I think he's just a snarky heel. Can he be a little? I mean, does he? I think the more aggressive side of Ethan Page is how he debuted. We learned that he was the one behind all the attacks. I don't think we're there yet because I think we want to showcase that he belongs in the main event picture. And I think him getting that clean win over Oro kind of helps facilitate that. But I think we can get back to an aggressive side of him. But I think it's going to be like who brings it out of him. I think Joe Hendry is the perfect bet to bring that out of him.
Then we have Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray. What did you think of this match?
So I'm mad I didn't actually get to watch this match. I did see what preceded backstage, and now I know that Ren picked up the W. Now Charlie Dempsey has a shot versus the Heritage Cup next week. I absolutely love this character arc that Carly Gray is on. I love that she's like we want to call it like a mini Creed brother, just throwing people around. I do want to go back and watch this match. I like that Ren Sinclair is now officially in the No Quarter Catch crew as well now. And she'll give that group some much needed personality because that's what they're lacking. Yeah. So she'll be able to help bring out the personalities of Dempsey, Miles Bourne, Tavion Heights. That's what that group needs. They've had so much shift in the group with characters. And this is like, okay, this is the group where people go to die, literally. And then just add in a new character and supposed to care. Ren Sinclair will make people invested in No Quarter Catch crew and make people actually care about them as a faction.
Yeah, she's really good, even on the indie scenes. And we have an interview with her from years ago, obviously. But she was really great on character development back then. So now that she's kind of getting this play, I'm curious to see how it's all going to kind of pan out. But what I really do love about NXT, it's kind of like ROH. By the way, too, our ROH TNA show is going to be Wednesdays at 1:30 Pacific time every Friday, excuse me, where they have a lot of different storylines going. It's not necessarily all about the championship. So I think Ren's going to be a really good addition to NXT as far as how everything goes. But that takes us to our tag team championships, MSK versus Nathan Frazer and Axiom. What did you think of this match?
Wait a minute. There was way more that happened in this, TK.
Oh, well.
We're not going to talk about the backstage segment where my client had to get them hoes in order.
Well, speak on it.
And before you guys go to comment like, oh, Cedric, you can't say that. Men is hoes too. Lola Vice, backstage, got some rookie together that was sitting there trying to flirt, and they did a shield bomb to that man backstage. We have to speak on that because you know what that tells me in like so many words. Lola's a locker room leader in comparison to some other people's characters that run Perezville or whatever the hell they call it, those fake paper champions. Lola's a locker room leader. She said, hey, Dale, And then Jada Parker got in line, Sol Ruka got in line, and they performed a shield bomb backstage at the barbecue. Don't think I didn't see that. Don't think I didn't see the locker room leader that Lola's becoming. And I'm thankful that Jada Parker, my other client, has now formed herself a little trio with Lola and Sol Ruka, and then we got Maple Leaf Xia Li out the way. She didn't need to be a part of that. We don't like her. So just wanted to make sure we shed some light on that a second, because that was probably my favorite moment of the Great American Bash last night. We gotta be clear. Yeah.
Okay. So did you counsel them before it happened, or are you just watching this in real time and you're like, oh, that was a good move?
No. I put a little bug in Jada's ear, said, hey, these are people you gotta align with backstage, and I'm glad that she took that advice, and now Parkerville and Vice City are wedded, if you would.
Okay. And this is something that you spoke to Jacob about?
Spoke to Jacob? I don't know why I would have to do that. Why would I have to?
I thought you were, aren't you like co-mayors or something, or what?
I don't know where that came from. On the ballots, and you'll see these ballots in a few months, you can only elect one government official per city, and that is I, as elected by the people for both jurisdictions.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, there it is.
So yeah, we gotta talk about this tag team match, because Michael, you missed the boat, brother. You whatever you was cooking is burnt. It's burnt.
Oh,
because this was not it. You had, and this is where I question the NXT TNA partnership, and it makes me feel like this is very AEW New Japan-esque, the way they ended this whole thing, and that's not good. We finally get an MSK reunion after so many years, and if you've been following NXT for so long, you knew why that tag team broken up, and it was no fault of either superstar. It was because of some allegations that were made that turned out to be completely erroneous, and it got a man terminated for that. So now we get this reunion, and in my mind, when you get a reunion of this magnitude, I believe MSK, 2-time tag champs, this could have made them 3, which would have been huge. I think they would be the only 3-time NXT champions. So you got a chance to make history. But more importantly, you reunite this group that everybody knows from online, from TNA, knows the Rascals. You can literally be printing money. You can print money, print merchandise. Their segments, their Treehouse segments have been doing good on social media. You get to have Wesley do matches in TNA as well, where you got to start, where people know this famous group. And then for whatever you're doing with Fraxium, with Axiom and Nathan, it's like you're teasing this breakup.
right.
Frazier has competed for the Heritage Cup. Axiom's on the speed challenges. You're teasing this breakup, but it's like you're so hesitant to pull the trigger. And then you have MSK lose. And it's like, well, why did we bring them back together and give them a win over this tag team? That's really, when you want to look at tag teams of yesterday and today, this is just 2 single stars wrestling together. MSK was a real tag team that we thought when they were at their peak that they would go onto the main roster and do great things together. And Wes has been fortunate enough to have a great singles career just on the heels of some erroneous things that happened in the company of no fault of his or Zach's own. So to have them lose when we're literally printing money with the whole Rascals reunion, and it literally just happened, and I guess we got to talk about the stuff at the end. And this is where I question Shawn Michaels. And when I say we do things just for the sake of doing them, I don't feel like Shawn. No, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I don't think that Michael can book a comprehensive storyline without relying on betrayal. And that's a problem. And if I go further back and I'm saying like betrayal, I'm going as far as Cora and Roxanne, Gigi and JC, Trick and Mello. It is exhausting. It is tired. It does not always have to have, like, we don't need to do things with betrayal so often, because this one made no sense. These 3 guys are brothers, have a long storied history with each other, and one of them got fired for no fault of his own, but Wes is mad because he left them when we, like, just literally 2 weeks ago, we saw him crying in the ring because he was surprised by them.
Right.
What are we doing? And that's what I'm saying. We have Battle of the Belts without no title change, but hey, let's throw some shock value in here just so people can talk about the show. This was stupid. And I need fans to go online and say how stupid it is, because you could be printing money for months with a trios championship belts that don't exist, that those three men could have probably maybe rallied the troops for, because it's fun. But this was dumb. And I don't think Sean can really book storylines without having betrayal be the focal point, because nobody asked for this. I don't think it elevates Wes Lee anymore, because now he's just going to be the angry small guy in NXT. It's not going to make him do anything better because he hasn't beaten Oba. They're not going to elevate him to the main title picture to fight Ethan, Trick, or anybody else. This is pointless.
Yeah, that's my question, because when they first did their promo before the match, it almost felt like, and New Day has said this, I don't know if they've said this in the ring, but they've said this plenty times on several different interviews. Xavier has said this to me, just, in general, that they're never, they're brothers, right? So when they cut the promo today, MSK, I felt like, okay, because obviously New Day is transitioning out. They're retiring probably within the next 5 years or so, right? And this is going to be the new crop of people who actually stick together, and not one of those tag teams or groups where, they're together, then they're not, they're together, then they're not. I feel like we need kind of almost like that brotherhood or sisterhood. And I thought that's what they were on their way to doing until the end, where it's just like, yeah, I agree with you. It was just like, wait, what are we doing here? What's the point of it? Cliff saying HBK likes betrayal because that's what made his career. So there's that. Bosa saying, did HBK have another flashback to when he turned on Marty Jannetty with this angle?
And it's dumb because it hasn't elevated anybody else. Like JC and Gigi, neither benefited from that betrayal angle. It did nothing for them. I would argue that it did nothing for Cora and Roxy, because eventually you turned Roxy heel and Cora got hurt after her Mean Girl turn. It did nothing. Trick and Mello, I mean, the matches didn't really live up to the hype of all that hatred. Like they just didn't. So this is just another example of like, we're trying to use betrayal to get clicks and views, but when you do it, it has to make sense. This is one of those times where it just did not make sense, because that's not Wes Lee. 2, does Wes Lee even have staying power as a heel character past this?
Right.
Like,
and then what next?
Once we get past this, what's next? Where does he go?
Yeah.
What does that do for him? Because, I mean, they've shown me right now that he's not going to win the North American title back. He's just like underneath the world title picture. We're not going to elevate him above to be with Trick. So, like, it makes no point. And it further blurs the line of your NXT TNA partnership, where you brought the Rascals over so you can actually do something with them as a trio. Now you just washed all of that away. And it would have made more sense to have the NXT titles with the Rascals, which Zach manifested, defended on 2 different promotions. TNA, NXT. You get the best of both worlds. Everybody gets elevated in the process, because that's an NXT title going to do TNA shows. Now you messed it up. And like you said, with teams breaking up and getting back together, now if they ever get back together, nobody cares. If they buy out Zachary Wentz's contract and he becomes a WWE superstar again, nobody cares. The reunion doesn't matter, because you spent all that time using all social media, getting all those views and clicks, and now you've washed that away. This is one of the times where people need to be very vocal online, just like they were some months ago when we thought we were getting Rock versus Roman, and really besmirch this moment, because this was trash. This was hot garbage.
Oh, well then. Besmirched.
You're better than this, Michael. At least I thought you were better than this, Michael, because, I mean, you made the wrong decision with Lola and Roxy, but, I mean, the bar was low, and you limboed under that motherfucker. This is bad.
So where do we that's right, Cliff. So where do we go from here? Where do you see NXT next week?
And that's what sucks. I mean, I don't think they needed. I feel like if Professor was here, he would say maybe they did something like this because they were on Sci-Fi this week. Again, chasing clicks and views. But now next week you have to make it make sense.
Right.
Like you've overshadowed everything. You've overshadowed a great match with Pete and Trick. You've overshadowed your world champion. You've overshadowed Roxy and Thea last week with just this moment. And now you got to pay it off and say, like, well, why did West do this? Why does it matter? And then here's the next thing. Is this betrayal going to elevate itself up the card to where it's a main event? Is this going to be a main event match like Trick and Mello was? Probably not. Probably not. So I don't think it's going to be bigger than from No Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll be like your final match over like whoever Roxy faces next, assuming that's like a Stephanie or a Julia or even like a Jada Parker, because Jada says she got next. I don't think that elevates you above Joe Hendry as well as maybe Ethan Page if that happens at the next NXT PLE. So it just asks the question, like, why'd you do it? What was the point?
Honey in the building. She did not like the ending at all. Bobby saying I could see NXT doing a single match between Wesley versus Zach. I was thinking that too. But would that be like that's still doing the crossover with NXT and TNA? And I much rather prefer, and maybe they will work back to that. I much rather prefer them to have the belts and crossover as champions between the two brands, because I think that would be more beneficial. And also the merch is everything. And I know I'm probably behind as far as watching this, but I watched the A&E biographies in like blocks. So I'll watch a couple of them at a time. And I just finished watching Sergeant Slaughter's biography, and he was talking about like the merch with, I believe it was Hasbro at the time. And then also seeing how NXT and WWE is like pairing with the Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. I feel like merch wise, there's more sales as a tag team, given the fact that they have history together than singles. So I think money wise,
used to buy those lime green MSK shirts. You could have been printing them. They could have been printing them Rascals hockey jerseys. They would have made so much more money. So this just shows that this was just a snap decision that history won't be kind to.
Right. Definitely agree. With that being said, speaking of merch and, history being kind, definitely be kind to us and pick up some merch.
Hey, yo, you. Yeah, you that's watching this. You sitting on the couch staring at the screen not knowing what you want to do like this is an online college. Are you tired of wearing shirts that make you look like an extra stuck in catering? Do you want to step your wrestling swag game up to the next level? Then Women's Wrestling Talk has got you covered. Like literally. Are you for life in pink or black and white? Or maybe you're the EST and people need to respect you accordingly. Want to put some pride in your stride and show off the muscle in your hustle? Then make sure you check out the WWT store. Not now, but right now. Alright? What you waiting for? Head to wwtalkpodstore.com and don't make me fight you. Shit.
Honey, if you're still watching, I just want to let you know that according to the mayor, he said there's only one NXT tag team, so you can take it up with him. Following our show, which is coming up in 5 minutes, WWT Live. So I guess we can discuss further, and or if Jacob does show up as well. With that being said, he said, where can everybody find you?
I don't want to be found. I got some business to take care of in this next 5 minutes on WWT Live. So if you do want to find me, you can find me on our next program.
With that being said, you can find me everywhere at TK Trinidad. I will also be on WWT Live. We have a lot of things to talk about as well. And you can follow Women's Wrestling Talk on all social media platforms at wwtalkpod.com. Thank you guys so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao, y'all.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at wwtalkpod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms, like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at wwtalkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk.